So DNRS has changed everything about my life, truly. I could go on and on about how much it's changed my life. But I think when I came to DNRS, all I wanted was to get to neutral. I just thought if I could get to Danielle before perfect storm, even like get through the day without pain, like I will be happy. That's all I wanted out of it. But what I have gotten is so much more. So before I came to DNRS, the symptoms that I had were all over the map. And I think that's part of why it was so difficult to get a diagnosis or figure out what was wrong with me. It started with pain, chronic pain that grew and spread to different areas of my body, seemingly unrelated. And the pain would come and go and move, and it was never in one spot. And that was the first thing that I started to see practitioners for, was why I'm healthy, I'm young, why do I have this pain? Which then developed into digestive issues, food allergies, allergies to all sorts of products. So I started, having all these kind of allergies that were jumping all over the board. Some days I'd be sensitive to one thing, some days I wouldn't. Sleep, insomnia, that was definitely a big symptom. And at the time, I didn't recognize it as, depression or anxiety or anything like that. I hadn't got that diagnosis, but looking back on where I am now versus how I used to feel mentally and emotionally, definitely had depressive and anxious tendencies, and just kind of withdrew, which isn't necessarily a diagnosable symptom, but withdrew from my life, withdrew from society, dropped out of school and work and things. So that avoidance and that withdrawal was kind of the biggest red flag that this isn't me, something is up. So on my worst days before finding DNRS, much of my day was spent really just in survival mode, doing everything I possibly could that the doctors were telling me to do to get through the day, taking all of the wild supplements and treatments and medications, trying out lots of different alternative healing modalities, and sticking to their very strict diet guidelines. But other than going to appointments, which were often quite painful, these treatments were not comfortable. I look back at those pictures of myself in those treatments and I do not recognize me at all. I looked like a shell of a human, like a skeleton of myself. But I just remember, between appointments, there were some days when I'd have a little bit of energy and could kind of go for walks, take my dog out, but many days were spent truly just in my house, in bed, or on the floor, not being able to get up. So I'm very grateful that I did have some close friends who didn't understand, but at least stuck by me. But for the most part, I would say relationships kind of fell by the wayside because nobody could relate to what I was going through. I was spending all my time in appointments. I dropped out of work and school, said no to social engagements. And so a lot of relationships sort of fell by the wayside. I think as far as family goes, again, they were doing their absolute best to be supportive, but I felt such a disconnect because nobody could understand what I was feeling. Even practitioners and things, I felt this disconnect. I found out about the DNRS program in a magazine at an office. It was a naturopath where I used to go 3 times a week to get different ozone and vitamin injections and things. So I just remember sitting in this office feeling like, well, I guess this is my life now. And I had accepted that. I guess I'm just going to survive and keep going to these appointments, keep spending all of our money doing this and not having a job or doing anything, because my full-time job really became going to appointments like these. And I remember sitting and just opening this magazine and seeing a little blurb, somebody talking about their experience with DNRS. And it seemed way too good to be true. Their recovery journey that they described in just a couple sentences in this magazine. But also it sparked a little interest. It sparked a little moment of, oh, there could be a life without going to these appointments. And when I heard Annie speaking and how she talked about the brain, it made sense. I'd never thought that the brain could be involved, but as she was speaking, it was like, oh yeah, of course this is it. So before finding DNRS, I was spending thousands of dollars a week on appointments. Um, they weren't covered by insurance, so it was all out of pocket. And when I began DNRS, the cost of the program is the same cost of one of my ozone treatments per week that I was doing 3 times a week. So the cost is astronomically less. There's no comparison. And the person that I am now is not the person that I was before I started DNRS. I am a totally brand new human. That's the only way I can describe it. Like I feel like a new person. A better DNRS has made like a Danielle 2.0. I wanted to get back to Danielle before Perfect Storm, but it's like I've created this whole new person and this whole new life. And I've made amazing friends through that process, and gotten back to so many activities that I love, but also tried a lot of new activities that I used to maybe scoff at or think that's not for me, that I've learned that I really love. And I just say, and if I could sum up how DNRS has changed my life, I would say just it makes life so much more wonderful. I mean, the confidence that comes with that, and yeah, it's just unexplainable. And the relationships that have improved through it, and just a sense of joy and strength and ease and gratitude that I go through the days with is, yeah, it's amazing.